Today on Rates and Barrels, CB Bucknor wraps up worst call of the year on the last day of March, and we discuss hitters we'd like to see take a more aggressive approach at the plate. Let's go. Welcome to Rates and Barrels. It is Wednesday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, so be on the lookout for suspicious tweets, suspicious user interface changes. Some of those might actually be real, though. If you guys open up a site and the design is completely different on April 1st, and your first thought is this a joke? And it's not a joke. I feel bad for the person that designed it. Lots to talk about today, guys. Jed, I had to ask you a question. Of the umpires still in circulation, still actively calling games that you had during your career, who is your favorite umpire? Who's the umpire you actually liked having, either running a crew or behind the plate, that you just thought was generally really good at their job?
I really like Mark Wegner. He's no nonsense. He's gonna tell you the way he sees it, but he's honest, and he'll tell you if he get it wrong. And so I always had a good relationship with Mark. I remember early, he was a young umpire when I was a young player, and I think we both knew that we'd at least he knew he would be around for a long time, and I was hoping I would be around for a long time.
He's at the center of a little bit of a kerfuffle.
Is he?
Yeah. He's on the rundown today.
Is he?
Yes,
Perfect.
he is.
That's right.
Umpires shouldn't be on the rundown, generally speaking, unless they are at the hotel and, save someone at the pool from drowning or do something heroic. It's probably best for us not to know what umpires are actually up to. So 2 umpires made the rundown today. The other, as everyone guessed, CB Bucknor, who's kind of like an April Fool's joke incarnated as a human, calling games and just ruining things all the time. CB Bucknor made the rundown because he was watching an errant throw towards first base and called Jake Bauers out for not stepping on first base on a play in which it was very clear in real time on any replay that he ran through the bag and stepped pretty completely on it. So that was weird.
The replays showed he was very clearly looking at the ball that went past. And I think they have training to be like, don't look at things that are not important to the play, right? Like you shouldn't be watching that ball, because what are you going to call on that play, right? Like they're not going to call him out on the ball, so don't worry about the ball. The only thing that matters now is the thing. And then on top of that, I think, let's say, okay, you're only human. You watched the ball when you shouldn't have watched the ball. Then just assume the guy touched the base, because it would be really weird to run through first base and not touch the base. I mean, like, how many people have ever done that?
On that play, right? Like,
yeah.
Like the only times that's going to happen is if there's someone covering the bag and you're trying to avoid a collision, and maybe something a little unusual happens with feet. Like, I could see it there. But yes, your built-in assumption, if you do look away, has to be he obviously touched the bag. And I think what happened was the guys on the field, the Rays, realized he was not looking at first base.
That's why they
someone
tagged him.
insinuated he didn't touch the base, tagged him, and CB was like, oh, he must thought it touched the base. It's like, no, CB, you can't do that. Now, I think part of what Jed's saying about Mark Wegner lines up with the fact that he acknowledged what happened after the game and took accountability afterwards, which is, I think, all we actually want when people screw up. Just take accountability for your mistakes. The pool report had it all outlined.
Cam Smith had struck out.
Yeah, Cam Smith struck out, but Mark Wegner didn't punch him out. He forgot a pitch, forgot the count, and then Cam Smith took a walk, which led to Brian Bayo getting removed from the game, Red Sox going to the bullpen earlier. A little bit of a mess.
I wonder if you can play that under challenge or whatever, like whatever they call that when they're like, we should
under
not
protest?
have lost the game.
Yeah, under protest.
But
yeah,
I do like that Wegner took accountability. I mean, he said, I've never done that before. I'm not happy about it. Just made a mistake. He sort of insinuated, like, had anybody caught that, we can always go and call replay and check the count. So, maybe the catcher should have said something, but
I mean, it clearly slipped past everybody on the field, right? I'm pretty sure the Astros are not looking to, or sorry, the Red Sox are not looking to get have another pitch thrown, and so the Red Sox dugout can call for that, but Mark is standing there taking accountability, which thankfully lines up with what I said earlier.
That game was a 9-2 win for the Astros anyway, so it didn't end up having a major impact on the outcome, but nice to see the accountability anyways. We did have a Discord question about CB Bucknor and umpires being removed. I mean, it's just not going to happen. You need some kind of egregious Pat Hoberg type situation, or you need kind of an Angel Hernandez, I'm going to kind of go on my own terms sort of agreement.
Yeah, I don't know the exact details of their CBA with the league, but right, yeah. So that it's going to take more than that, more than a bad call.
Yeah, they have a lot of protection, and just the Angel Hernandez himself, like widely regarded as a poor umpire for a long time, finally gets let go and then immediately has a lawsuit against Major League Baseball as a result of that. So, it's pretty difficult to let them go. They won't make postseason assignments and stuff like that. I think that like postseason assignments are very merit based. So hopefully you won't see the bad ones as much in the postseason. But it's kind of hard, especially when they've been around for a long time. And that's what we've seen with ABS, is that the younger umpires are doing better on challenges and the older ones are not. And so sometimes you just have to wait for them to sort of retire out.
Yeah, I didn't, I didn't always agree with every umpire on the field, but they do have hard jobs, but this one, I think it was more the process with which the play played out. DVR, I think you described it perfectly. Is why are you watching the ball and not the base? The ball is not going to make the play at that point. And then why is your assumption that he didn't touch the base, or why are you able to be so influenced by a player on the opposing team to say that he didn't touch the base? Like that, I think that's what it boils down to me in this case.
Just a wandering mind, I guess, is the case. But my hope is that even though ABS will be a big part of the conversation at various points throughout this season, that maybe as the umpires make adjustments, we're thinking and talking a little bit less about their role in all of this as the season rolls along.
I have to say, like, I get the newsletters from other parts of the Athletic, and I see that it's poking through to the general public, like, to non-baseball fans, ABS is the big story of the season so far. And so far, the spin, I think, has been a positive one, that fans are enjoying it and that they're getting the calls right. But it is a little bit weird to have an early season and be like, are we really going to make this all about a rule change? What about the young players? What about the teams? What about what's going on the field? Like, not beyond, like, showing up the umps on the big screen.
DVR made another good point. Like they're gonna learn. These umpires are the best at what they do for humans, right? And once again, hard job. You made the point too, DVR, like we shouldn't really know that they're there, and that's a really hard job, right? Because it's only negative, right? There's no positives. You get it right, you're expected to get it right, and if you get it wrong, you're an idiot. That's a hard world to live in, and so I just like I said, I had more than my fair share of interactions with umpires, and probably showed up a few at some point, but I do know that they have a hard job, and I respect them. And I actually really love. I think the ABS system is great, and I hope it doesn't take the wind out of the sails of the umpires, because I do think this is the best implementation of the technology. And you hear the fans' reaction, like every single replay you see with the ABS system, fans go nuts, whether it's the right call or the wrong call. You can hear the roar of the crowd. Like, it's really engaging. Fans are watching because at any moment, any pitch can be challenged. And so that engagement level of fans is so high right now. I think because of this, hopefully it's not the novelty of it and it continues. But I do really like the ABS system.
Yeah, high marks all around so far, as we've seen over the course of this first week. I'm a little surprised that on a day like today, Shohei Ohtani's performance on the mound wasn't the first thing on everybody's mind. But again, that's the power of seeing things that didn't actually happen, I guess. Shohei Ohtani, 6 Ks in 6 innings, pitched really well and threw more curveballs, 24% curveball usage, So I think the pitch mix tweak is really interesting. And I think Shohei being a regular starter from day one of the season is really interesting too, because we talked about this during the winter. One of his goals appears to be contending for and winning a Cy Young Award, and this type of workload right away is the first small step towards actually making that a reality.
Yeah, the curveball was super interesting for a couple of reasons. He varied the speed on that from 69 to 83. So I wouldn't be surprised if they revised his StatCast page at some point to include a slow curve, in which case, if he is throwing a slow curve and it's a separate pitch, that's 7 pitch types. And I think we're getting the Yu Darvishification of Shohei Ohtani a little bit, where he's throwing, 3 breaking balls now, and maybe with the slow curve, 4 breaking balls. And he's reducing the amount of four-seamer he's throwing, which is probably good because the stuff is down a little bit on the pitch. He was down to 96.8 instead of, last year was 98.4. And, that's just age and coming back, and maybe he'll add some. I'm not saying this is, it's all written, this is over, but, I think this is this is what happens with older pitchers. They throw their secondaries more, they throw their fastball less. And I think he has enough feel on this. I mean, to vary the speed that much on a curveball, and throw it for strikes and not have a single one be hit for an extra base hit, get whiffs on it. And it was a really important pitch for him against lefties. If you're just four-seam split against lefties, that's fine. Last year he was kind of four-seam split sweeper. Now you're using a sweeper against lefties that is not ideal. And if you're just four-seam split, then you become a two-pitch pitcher he's never had really great command. So the more pitches he can throw, the better, I think. And, this is really particularly important against lefties. So this is great too, that he pitched so many innings in his first time out. So maybe there is a chance for a Cy Young here.
Yeah, and I think an important thing from the hitter's perspective on this is really it comes down to hand speed, right? Like if he's throwing 4 breaking balls, but they're different hand speeds to change the trajectory or the spin or the shape of it, that as a hitter you perceive that. If he's able to throw all of these different breaking balls with the same hand speed as the fastball, then that's where it becomes a challenge as a hitter, because you can when you're standing in the box, you perceive a guy slowing down, right? And so if he's throwing a slow curveball and slowing everything down, and what'd you say the low end was 69? Well, I mean that's pretty slow. So it might be kind of like a novelty, like ephus type thing where he's just trying to steal a strike. But if he's able to, like I said, if he's able to throw a 69 mile an hour breaking ball with the same hand speed and then still, mid 90s with the fastball, that change in speed makes it really hard on a hitter.
From my eye, he had extra hump on the slow one.
Yeah.
So I think a hitter might be able to catch that trajectory. But what we have seen from the research, and I think this would probably jive with what you're saying, I think probably you see that hump, you see curveball, and like most batters' reaction is to not swing to stop your swing, because you're timed up for something a lot faster than that. You see that hump, you're like, oh nope, I'm not going to swing. So you're right, it could still just be a stolen strike one. But with his command, I think stealing a strike here or there could be really important.
Yeah, I was looking at the breakout on Baseball Savant. I don't know if this is new to everyone or if it's just new to me, but they have a tracker now, velocity by inning, on the player breakdown page where you can see how every pitch is tracking velocity-wise, usage each time through the order. If you were watching that game, you noticed the rain was starting to pick up as that start wore along too. I wonder how much the rain impacted the velo drop in the 5th and the 6th inning for Ohtani, because it looked like footing in particular was a problem for him. Grip on the ball obviously becomes a problem in the rain too, but we saw him out there trying to get dirt out of his spikes and trying to get the landing spot right near the end of that outing. So I'm seeing that dip, and I'm not as worried about that velocity tailing off in the 6th inning, knowing the context of what was happening at Dodger Stadium on Tuesday night.
Good point.
On the other side of that game, by the way, Chase DeLauter fouled a ball off his back foot. I don't know how you can have as bad of luck as Chase DeLauter has with his feet. Meg Rowley on Blue Sky said, can we give Chase DeLauter something better than feet? And like just Chase DeLauter just in a peg leg situation would be good in the sense that he couldn't hurt his feet, but I do think it would hurt his sprint speed a lot. So hopefully everything's okay. X-rays came back negative. Haven't seen any follow-ups Wednesday otherwise, so maybe just a day-to-day situation and a non-IL issue. But given the history here, I think everybody was sort of holding their breath when they saw him leave that game.
Especially, with the way that he started the year in an offense in Cleveland that needs a bat, like that. Fingers crossed that it is just a bone, maybe it's just a bone bruise, or maybe not even a bone bruise, and it's a day-to-day thing.
Other quick flybys. Zach Eflin had to leave his start with right elbow discomfort. We'll wait further details there, but that did not look like a good situation coming out of that Orioles game. On the other side of that one, Jacob deGrom still has it. Had the stiff neck that knocked him off the schedule on Saturday. Comes back out on Tuesday, still averaging 97.5 on that four-seamer in his season debut.
Yeah, uncustomary blip with no, it wasn't with the command. He allowed homers is what it was. I remember looking at the box score and saying, what happened there? But I mean, a good 7 strikeout, 0 walk performance in 4 2/3. Next time out, you'd expect fewer, no homers, and probably going deeper into the games. I think that Cade Povich is probably the name to circle in Baltimore. He seems like either him or Dean Kramer would be the next one up. Do you think it'd be which one do you think it'll be?
I think Kramer has been good enough as a back-end starter. I think they'd go to him first, even though Povich keeps getting into your brain somehow.
Yeah, I just feel like he has more upside than Kramer. Kramer is just a very sort of solid pitcher, but career 20% strikeout rate, 8% walk rate. These are all very sort of average numbers.
We are going to hit a quick break. Good news is we have some data to dig into. Bat speed gainers. We'll talk about who is showing more bat speed early on this season and why it matters when we come back. Welcome back to Rates and Barrels. We're taking a look at some early bat speed gainers and a few related questions too. But why does a bat speed change matter in such a small sample size? This time of year drives us crazy. We want information, and we want that information to matter. A lot of stats are far from stabilization points. They don't have as much value as we'd like. Bat speed actually is closer to being relevant, or is relevant, in a week's worth of sample.
Yeah, I mean, if you're frustrated that the list of bat speed, the top bat speeds in the big leagues, doesn't produce the exact list of the best hitters in the big leagues, I think the big question, the big sort of thing that's missing is strikeout rate, contact rate, swing decisions. Those things are really important. That's what turns top end bat speed into a really good hitter. But if you're talking about predicting rest of season production on balls in play, bat speed gives you what barrels gives you as a stat in terms of predictive quality, and it gives it to you in 4 or 5 games of play. So basically in a quarter of the sample that you need for barrels. So barrels, you need about a month before you can say, oh, this guy's got a really good barrel rate, that he's going to have a good power the rest of the way in terms of what happens on balls in play. Bat speed can tell you as much as barrels in 4 or 5 games. One thing that is tough about bat speed, though, in really early going, is that it is affected by pitchers. And pitchers, there is a correlation, sort of a year-to-year correlation for pitchers and bat speed. They have an effect on bat speed. I think it has to do with maybe the size of arsenals, being able to fool batters somehow. Maybe it's a tunneling thing, but it has an effect on bat speed. So if you looked at one game of bat speed, you might say, oh gosh, this guy has terrible bat speed, but maybe he faced a pitcher that was really good at suppressing bat speed that day. And so, at this point, though, we've got guys who've played for almost a week. And the one thing I wanted to do, and goes to our long-term conversation about how do we improve our bat speed, our understanding of bat speed, or how do we improve the bat speed metrics that are out there. What I tried to do was basically look at 75th percentile bat speed. Or what I did was I looked at the top half of their swings, basically the median of the top half of their swings. What I'm thinking is that's your A swing. Your top half of your 50% of your best swings, that's your A swing. And if your A swing got better and faster, then I believe that you actually have more bat speed. So that's what I did, and I looked at only people who had more than 24 swings. So that if you did it in half, you still got 10 swings in there. And the biggest difference, you'll see it on the screen now. Pete Crow Armstrong is up 2.5 ticks. Colt Keith is up nearly 2 ticks. Patrick Bailey, nearly 2. Drake Baldwin, our favorite, up a tick and a half, basically. Corbin Carroll is feeling froggy. Riley Green as well. Jackson Merrill, nearly a full tick. Yandy Diaz, who didn't need a tick, got a tick. And Nolan Gorman swinging faster. And I think it's an interesting group of players because the veterans on there, you're happy that they're healthy. Corbin Carroll with the hamate injury, you're just happy that he's swinging it well. And then the younger players on here, real tantalizing group of players where they might just be hitting another level, filling out, adding speed, growing into their bodies and adding power. And for a lot of them, that could be really exciting.
No, there's no doubt. Like you said, there's some high end talent on this list, and but I will still go back to the quality of contact, the quality of decisions. I mean, you can swing the bat as hard as you want, but if you're hitting it off the label, it doesn't matter. And so yeah, I agree that this is, it's really important to understand this, but in context of the swing decision, the quality of contact, and so it's, what I love about this stuff is we're not reinventing the wheel. I think we just have objective ways of measuring it now. And so that is, hitting hasn't changed. It's just the way that we measure it and the way that we can objectively identify things has changed.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things we've always valued are still things we're valuing in a similar sort of way.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the ultimate, like I talk a lot about intent on this, right? Like on the show, like intent is really what drives a lot of this, right? What are you trying to do as a hitter? Because the philosophy of hitting is it's super reactive, right? And that's why we talked about selective aggression. That's why that's such an important concept, because you don't control the ball, right? As the hitter, you are reacting. The decision-making process is the most important process in your ability to hit.
And I think that's why I'm most excited on this list with somebody like Drake Baldwin or Colt Keith.
Yes.
Because they've given us already shown us the above average ability to make contact.
Yes.
And if you're worried about that, Keith has a 30% strikeout rate right now. And maybe it goes up a little bit, honestly, with higher bat speed. There is a little bit more swing and miss. But I don't believe that he'll be anywhere near 30 because he was at 20 basically before this, and his swing strike rate hasn't really changed. So, I would say that's a sort of a small sample mirage there. Instead, I'd look at this is a guy who has above average ability to discern balls and strikes, who has I wouldn't call it necessarily elite, but like a really good ability to put bat to ball. And if you put those together with more like Nolan Gorman swinging faster, like I'm not going to say it's bad, but it doesn't move the needle for me because I always knew that Nolan Gorman could swing the bat fast and had power and I'm a little bit more interested in his swing decisions and how much contact he's making. Like there are even guys who swing the bat fast that sometimes swing the bat a little bit slower and have more success making contact. Like Corbin Carroll famously went to a fatter bat so that he was a little bit slower, and that helped him. So, Nolan Gorman doesn't excite me as much. Riley Green adding speed, like I don't know, he was already a top end guy. But I get really excited with Colt Keith and Drake Baldwin.
I couldn't agree more, right? And it's that balance of picking the pitches, that selective aggression, right? Identifying the pitches that you can handle and that you can get that A swing off on. So guys that have that, and this is where the adage of you learn how to hit first, then the power comes, right? That's where I feel like that's where we are with the Drake Baldwins of the world. That's where we are with the Colt Keys of the world, with this bat speed, increase. You have somebody who has that approach and the decision making qualities showing bat speed increases. That's where things get exciting.
Yeah, I think we're going to dig into some decision making stuff here in just a minute. Before we get to that, I wanted to put out the idea that top end bat speed might have a little downside beyond quality of contact. Like generally swinging the bat is fast is good. Like I think that's the basis for all of this. I'm not trying to say that swinging the bat hard is a bad thing. What I'm wondering about is if it can be a slightly problematic thing in the same way that guys that throw really hard seem to have the increased injury concern. Do we think there is increased injury risk that comes from top end bat speed? I mean, Giancarlo Stanton is so far the king of bat speed, but his body has had a hard time keeping up with seemingly like his physical ability, right? So are we at a point where we feel like there could be some kind of connection between swinging the bat too hard and being more susceptible to injury?
I think it would be hard not to draw a correlation between those two. The swinging, I mean, you put that amount of torque on your body and you increase the torque. I think the only logical conclusion is there will be more injury, probably, back and shoulder would be my guess.
Yeah, and obliques. I think that, one of the things you can just focus on in training is just to make sure you're focusing on decelerating as much as you're focusing on accelerating, because I think that's a lot of times that's what Tristan Casas was talking about a little bit with his rib injury. It was a car crash inside because he was turning so fast. And it's, you have to, it's important for pitchers too. People talk about, what happens after you release and the arm path afterwards and recoil and stuff like that. So I think, that's why we've seen some of these, like, they look silly, but the Paul Skeens water bags, for some extent, that's like when you twist with the water bag on your back, the water sort of forces you to decelerate because you're throwing all this extra weight forward and your body's like, whoa, you got to bring that water back. So I think that's a lot of the theory with the water bags. And I've seen hitters do it too. But there are other things they can do in the weight room, and I think it'll be okay. But you're right. Here's one reason that I can give you that I know from talking to analytics people for teams that it may not be as big a deal as throwing hard, which is when you track, like they track every throw that a pitcher throws, right? And they have, the better teams now have, catapults on them. They're like, even if they're doing weighted balls, whatever, they're tracking every throw. The better teams are also tracking every swing, that their hitters are doing, right? And what I was told from that tracking information is that pitchers can pitch through fatigue and throw through fatigue better than hitters swing through fatigue. So if like as soon as there's signs of fatigue, the hitter will feel it. If they've swung too much, if they're swinging too much, the hitter will feel it. It'll show in their data quicker, and so they don't swing through the fatigue as much. Like a hitter will, I don't know if this is true. This rings true to you, Jed, but like a hitter will stop swinging if they get tired, as opposed to sort of powering through it.
I don't know if that lines up logically. Like in my experience, my I guess my initial reaction to that is pitchers will make mechanical adjustments to try to have the same output, maybe. So maybe the velocity is showing up the same way. But I mean, hitters, famously will take, one more, right? And then 15 swings later, you're still saying one more.
Maybe you're just not like adjusting. Maybe fatigue that I'm talking about is less feeling tired as like adjustments your body, like that adjustment you're talking about. Like maybe if a hitter feels that he's doing something differently in a swing, to keep the bat speed up or whatever, that maybe he should stop. Right. Like you guys are kind of really attuned. You want your swing to be like the same.
Yeah, exactly. No, and you can swing yourself into a slump, where you're, and when I say a slump, I think it's probably more like bad habits. You swing yourself into bad habits. Slumps are, there's so much that go into a slump, but I think you can definitely swing yourself into bad habits, and you start changing your mechanics. You do that with injury too, right? Like as an everyday player, that was like a big thing. Like, oh, my hip's a little sore today, and you can see guys like I don't know, just having this conversation right now brought back this memory of standing outside of the cage talking to Brandon Moss, and I knew his at one point in a year that we had played together, his hip was not feeling good, and you could see him making mechanical adjustments to try to keep swinging and producing the same bat speed and power that he always had, despite his hip not feeling good. And I remember just, distinctly saying like, dude, don't change your mechanics because your hip is bothering you. And I'm guilty. And I use that as an example, like exactly. Like I use that as an example, but like I did the same thing, right? If somebody probably, at some point said that same thing to me.
But I think that's super common for pitchers. Pitchers never really feel that great.
Yeah.
And so they're always sort of, they talk about themselves as, like they're all like, they're all adjusting all the time.
Right. Right.
And I think that hitters are a little bit more, I want my swing to be my swing, and I don't want to really get into this like, oh, my hip hurts, so I'm going to, like you're saying, I'm going to open up earlier or something like that. You don't want to do that.
It's probably an oversimplification, but I feel like just the mass of the ball versus the mass of swinging the bat kind of lends itself to pitchers being able to manipulate things a lot more within a range that's still comfortable than the adjustments that hitters can make.
Well, I think I sort of see, I think that's a great point, but I think I sort of see it differently, which is that the mass of the ball allows them, like their hand speed is 90s. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But the top end bat speeds are 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just not as problematic because they're not getting to the same speeds. I mean, nobody swings a bat 99 miles an hour.
Not
well,
yet.
there's also a lot more yet. Oh God. There's also a lot more small stabilizing muscles that are put under the microscope with pitching, right? Bigger muscles are involved with hitting, if you're doing it right. And so, you've got, the shoulder stabilizers, you got elbow issues with pitchers that just aren't as much in play with hitters.
Definitely a lot more to unpack, I think, over time in this area. But I'm glad we maybe have talked ourselves down to a level of it's not necessarily as dangerous to be at the top of the bat speed leaderboard as it likely is to be at the top of the fastball velocity leaderboard, something we've seen over the course of the last decade or so now. We are going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how swing decisions tie into this and why you see such massive disparities between production and bat speed around that leaderboard, because it is incredibly frustrating. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Rates and Barrels. We're talking about swing decisions here. And I think the question I kicked around with you guys during our meeting earlier this week was, which hitters should be more aggressive? We think about this in the context of, as Jim in the Discord pointed out, OBP being good from the Moneyball era. And OBP is good. The question would be, do you ever end up in a situation where you missed on opportunities to do damage because you were being too patient or too passive, right? I think I distinctly recall Reds broadcasters being hypercritical of Joey Votto at times for being too passive. And I don't know if I have a firm position on that right now as being something that I actually believe in, but I know they wanted more power from him, probably in part because he's a first baseman, and first baseman must hit for power because that's what baseball is. And I think that was kind of at least a core idea that was sort of stuck there. So the question for you guys, do we buy the premise that some guys are just simply too passive even though they might have good OBPs? Like that's an entirely possible thing to have, right?
First of all, let me just address the Joey Votto thing, because this is just human nature, right? A guy that hits 356 career home runs isn't aggressive enough, right? Like nothing is ever good enough. We always want more, right? Like just human nature. We all 356 career homers isn't enough. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Well, I mean, hey, Joey Votto had a 67% zone swing against a 20% chase rate in his career. So he actually, by the numbers that we're looking at now, he would have been maybe 2 standard deviations above the mean in terms of making the right decisions. So he wouldn't land on my too picky list. Because the part of the equation is we looked a lot at chase rate, but part of the equation is swinging at strikes and being aggressive enough, like you said, DVR, to do damage. And if you look at the list of the pickiest players in baseball, just by chase rate, Juan Soto, of course, is the new Joey Votto. But like Joey Votto, and actually he's a little bit more passive than Joey Votto, so you could make the argument that he should be more aggressive. I think that he kind of toggles that a little bit, that aggression. It has to do with how much pitchers are executing a plan against him. If they are, then he'll get a little bit aggressive and sort of show them, oh, you should be more comfortable. You should be less comfortable than you're being so far. So I think Juan Soto is like maybe the smartest player in baseball. When you look at something like, getting that many steals with that sort of foot speed, like I think that's another example of Juan Soto being one of the smartest players in baseball. But you have Gleyber Torres. He's actually aggressive in the strike zone. He has a great sense of discipline. Kyle Tucker is Corey Seager in that he's really aggressive in the strike zone and really not aggressive outside of the strike zone. That's why there's a stat called Seager that's named after him. And Seager ports most directly to zone swing minus O swing. But you do have some veterans on here that are below the median. The median zone minus O swing is 37 and a half. So somebody like TJ Friedel could be more aggressive. Geraldo Perdomo could be more aggressive. And I think you noticed something about Geraldo Perdomo's aggression, that he did let some fastballs go by in the heart of the zone this year, Jarek.
Yeah, so I did a search, just a simple StatCast search. All I did was look at 4-seamers in the heart of the zone, right? Like generally, I would say if you were a big league player, you would more often than not want to swing at those. And I think maybe Perdomo shows us one case for not hacking, but he led the league by a wide margin. And that was kind of what surprised me, because he had such a good year last year. And that doesn't seem like something you'd be doing in a year where you put up numbers like what he did. 151 4-seamers in the heart of the zone were takes for Perdomo last year. But what I noticed was 131 of those takes were in 0-0, 1-0, 2-0, and 3-0 counts. So in situations where he could strike out, 2 strike counts, it only happened twice. So he wasn't letting middle or heart 4-seamers go by in those spots. And I think the first thing you'd say is if you are that passive and a lot of those are happening in counts where you're ahead, maybe you should start taking more shots, because pitchers think that they can throw you a 4-seamer in the heart of the zone and get away with it, right? And I wonder how much this next iteration of adjustments for Perdomo is going to be dialing into just how often that happened last year.
I don't know if you can do this as much as when I was playing, given that I'm old now.
Not that long ago.
Feels great, doesn't it?
because you saw the starter 3 times, right? Like it was unless you're chasing the guy, you're going to see the starter 3 times. And so I would want to, as especially as a young player, I wanted to trying to build that Rolodex of like the visualization and the timing of each guy's pitches. As we've learned, right? Like velocity doesn't tell the whole story. So, I could see a world where Perdomo was taking some of these pitches to see them, to get the timing, because, most hitters, at least that I played with, and myself included, hit off the fastball. Right. So if you had your timing off the fastball, you can adjust to the off speed. And so I could see a world where Perdomo last year wanted to see and time some of these guys that maybe he had never seen before. And I say that the reason I brought up, back in my day was I don't know if you can do that as much now. Like if you get your fastball over the plate now, boy, you better be ready to hit it, because you might only see the guy twice. Probably on average 3 times feels like a stretch. What we know about OPS jumping that 3rd time through now.
Yeah, and Perdomo really inspired me to make a second list that you can see on the screen now of the sort of younger players, because I talked to Trent Grisham about this so many times, and he's like, yes, I think I should be more aggressive in the zone. I think maybe that's part of what's going well for him in New York. But he has an approach, and he's gotten this far. Like, am I going to tell Mike Trout that he needs to be more aggressive in the zone? Like, no, I'm not going to tell Mike Trout anything. But if I was a coach, I might tell a younger, less established player that there might be more power out there for him. There might be more that he can do if he's a little bit more aggressive in the zone. So I tried to put a list together of that. These are people that did have more than 400 plate appearances last year, but are on the younger side. Maikel Garcia, below average Z-0 with a great sense of the zone. And he also has good bat speed, and he hits the ball hard. So I'd say, hey, sometimes get that ball out in front, like go get that ball. Chase Meidroth has been a guy we talked about here that has a great O swing, but he's also super passive in the zone. He has a 30% Z-0. Remember, the average is 37.5. So he's really far down on that list. And Bryson Stott is another young player that I think has enough pop in his bat that it might be like good for him. He also makes enough contact. Meidroth and Stott both makes a lot of contact. Like, you're not like with James Wood, it becomes a little bit more tantalizing where you say, man, you could, unlock more power and you could do a lot, because he has a sub 30 Z-0. But, with James Wood, he also had that contact piece where he's not making a lot of contact. And so if he goes and gets the ball further out in front, what if he strikes out 35% of the time? Like, it would get untenable at some point. So there is this sliding scale of being more aggressive, making contact. You want to make that contact, having an approach that has worked for you to get you to where you are. You got to the pros, dude. Like, am I supposed to change what I did to get here? But at the same time that, hey, you could be like Bryce Turang, like you could be someone who has gotten a little bit more aggressive in the zone and unlocked more power and just gotten to another level. People thought he was going to be maybe a fifth infielder that, was just there for defense, and he's proving himself to be an above average regular. Hey, Caleb Durbin, you do that. Michael Garcia, you have another level. Bryson Stott, you might have another level. So that's how I would put it if I was their hitting coach is, let's look and see if we can pick some spots and be a little bit more aggressive in the zone.
What's amazing is a bunch of the players that Eno just mentioned are also on that leaderboard that Perdomo was at the top of. The called strikes on four-seamers in the heart of the strike zone. Perdomo was 1 at 151. Bryson Stott was number 2 with 131 pitches like that. Stephen Kwan was 3rd. TJ Friedl, Luis Arias all in the top 5. Jonathan India, who I think was kind of the player that I thought of before we planned this segment, is actually 8th, because I look at India and I'm like, you have some power. You don't have a lot. You have a good OBP, but a really low slug. Like, there's probably something there where you could be doing more damage. Meidroth, 11th. Wasn't even a big leaguer every day last season, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys in here that are, those pitches seem generally like the ones that you need to ambush, but you have to decide, are they first pitch strikes that you have to jump on? Because that changes everything about what you're doing as a team and your mentality as a hitter.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't, you talked a little bit about contact point, at least like catching it out front. Like I don't think contact point correlates to swing decisions, right? Like I think like being ready to hit, right? I think that's the approach of, if you are standing in the box taking a pitch, it better be for a very specific purpose, right? And like I think of, you're leading off an inning, your pitcher just had a 30 pitch inning. He was out there grinding, and you just want to make sure that you don't make an out on the first pitch, right? Just to give that guy a little bit of breath. Let him get his bearings, especially if he's going back out there. But it really comes down to that intent and the mentality of, am I ready to hit every pitch? And I have never played with a successful major league hitter that has gone up there trying to walk, right? Or not ready to hit. It's this mentality of like, yes, right? Like we talked about this, I think last year, where there's those like 3 checkpoints, right? Like there's testing that has shown there's 3 kind of checkpoints. And if you don't step into the box ready to hit, thinking yes, you've already lost. And so I think of some of these guys, like James Wood is a guy that we've talked about a lot, because everybody sees the talent, everybody sees the bat speed and the production that he's already been able to have and be an all-star already. But with a Z swing of 54%, I mean, that is just that is standing up there sometimes. Like you are just standing there. And I don't, as a major league player, especially in this day and age with the stuff that pitchers throw, I don't think you can take a single pitch off.
Yeah. That's why I hate the Luis Arias freeze take. I have a real visceral reaction to that one. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think that I think it's really hard to do no yes. I don't no yes. You've all seen it in youth baseball.
Yes,
it's that swing where you're like, oops, and you like take that late swing, and the best you can do there is foul it off. Like you're most likely, and a lot of times you hit the catcher because the catcher's already thinks you're not swinging and is going to get the ball, and like. It's no yes doesn't really work.
It's really funny to me because we value walks so greatly at the major league level, and we talk about them a lot with on base percentage and how that correlates to OPS. But I think walks at the developmental stage, especially my son is 9, and we played in a Cal Ripken league over the summer last year where I think we played 12 games, and it was machine pitch and you couldn't walk. You either struck out or you put the ball in play. And when you think about it, like I have a lot of kids that, you want to get on base, right? Like you feel good when you get on base. And at that age with pitchers, there's in all likelihood, they're going to throw 4 balls before they throw 3 strikes, right? At 9 years old. And so there's actually an incentive to be passive at this developmental level. And this is obviously a very different, level of play that we're talking about, but it's the same mentality, right? Regardless of the pitcher, being able to throw strikes or not, you have to have the mentality of being ready to hit the strike if it does come. Because to your point, like no, yes, it's not that it, I think you said that it doesn't work often. Like it just doesn't work. Like you cannot be successful with that type of mentality.
It is really hard when I was coaching the kids. I know that I can say whatever I want, and then when they get out there, they're trying to compete and they want to get on base, and they don't want to strike out.
Exactly,
they want to get on base, and they know that this guy. They like no matter what they say, they know that this guy can't really throw strikes. So what I've tried to focus on is count leverage, where I'm yelling, "You're a hitter." You're a hitter out there, go get that ball, be a hitter. But I'm also, whenever they get ahead in the count, I say, you've got some free swings here, treat it like batting practice. You got some free swings, like take some swings.
Sure.
Like, you know, I had this one kid who kept doing freeze takes, and I started saying, I'm going to give you a piece of candy if you take 2 swings today. You know, and like, and I yelled at him across the field as the coach in the game. I said, now take a swing now, like on this pitch. I didn't care. Like, and he took a swing and he looked at me like, well, obviously didn't throw it in the zone. And I'm like, yeah, good job.
Right.
Good job for taking a swing.
So the moral,
I mean, it's really hard to work against. The game itself is telling them, oh yeah, you could just take a walk, but you're like, dude, swing the bat. You got to swing the bat.
So the moral of this story is we're going to see more hitting coaches with bags of candy at the major league level.
Bags of nerds clusters, yeah.
A lot of the kids said I was their favorite coach ever, but yes, their parents probably weren't super excited. I was just handing out candy.
No, but I'm talking about the major league level. Hitting coaches are going to be sitting in the dugout with bags of candy at the major league level, trying to get these guys. You know, so I could just see Chili.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of guys in the major leagues. I mean, we just talked about guys who want to swing more, but there are people that swing too often. There might be guys where you're like, I'll give you this piece of candy if you don't swing 3 times.
Yeah, no, but I, you know, all joking aside, I think, you know, like being aggressive in the zone, and I think it's a, you know, you have to put in the work to really identify the pitches that you handle in the zone. And when you do see it, you just can't second guess it. You just got to let it go.
Well stated. We've got a new segment we're going to roll out here on our way out the door today. It's called Show and Tell. We can rename it, but I'm starting with Show and Tell because I thought about this recently. It was actually one of the better parts of elementary school. Like, just random stuff people would bring in. Like, there was a kid in one of my classes in elementary school that brought in one of Shaq's shoes. And this was like 1994, so getting one of Shaq's shoes back then was actually difficult, and it was huge. It was enormous. It was ridiculous, right? And I'm pretty sure it wasn't a fake situation. Like, again, it was 1994. People weren't carrying around fake versions of Shaq's shoes back then. I mean, now you could probably just get a Shaq shoe on eBay or a piece of one on a card, and it'd cost you like $2, which kind of takes some of the fun out of it. But we all collect. I would say of the three of us, Jed is by far the highest level collector, but we're all trying to learn a little more about baseball cards in particular, and we're going to start this week with cards that have kind of a special sentimental value to you. Not necessarily the most valuable stuff you've collected, something that just brings you joy for one reason or another. I'm going to let you lead this one off.
Well, this is a card that I did get out of a pack, and he is a Hall of Famer and one of the best pitchers of all time, and I got to see a lot of him in Atlanta. But that's not why necessarily this is one of my favorite cards. The mustache is why this is one of my favorite stats. Did people remember the Greg Maddux stash? I don't know. He just looks like a different person to me. And I just love this card with the mustache. And it sort of set me off on a tangent of, you know, I am not blessed with the ability to do much with facial hair. So I'm insanely jealous of, this is an Ozzie Smith rookie. I just also think he looks so cool, dude. Like, he just like, it's the coolest is off the page on this one, man. He just looks like, he's like, what are you talking about, dude?
Hey, look at those chops. Look at those chops.
I just love those. And then if there ever was some facial hair that I might be able to manage, I might be able to manage this look, which I sometimes I look a little bit like this if I haven't shaved in a while.
You've got a Bruce Sutter up there.
with the kind of mutton chop, whatever, goatee thing, but also the hair on the side looks like basically what I look like right now when I'm wearing hat on, doing the coaching as a dad. So, and anyway, those are three of my favorite cards, mostly because of the facial hair.
I mean, and if you go back to the Greg Maddux too, I got a big picture pulled up too. He's got a little bit of like the tuft on the chin too, and like the and the pencil thin, like it's a little like samurai vibes.
It is, and he has that Ozzie Smith cool look.
Yeah.
Like, it's not very often. Pitchers usually, when you get him in motion, are looking stressed, dude. And he looks like he's just about to put this ball exactly where he wants it to go.
Yes.
He looks unbothered, I think is a great way to put it. What's amazing is if you look at a picture of his brother from the same season, you get like an 87 Mike Maddox card. You get the full paintbrush mustache by comparison. Just completely different mustache genetics in that family. What do you got, Jed?
I got three as well. A couple of them are, well, so this card is a Tony Kemp. Here, let me find Tony Kemp. And I did get my cards graded and encapsulated just so that the condition stays the same. But I remember this play distinctly. We were in Texas, the new stadium there. And, I'm watching Tony, he's playing up the middle, has to run from basically behind second base all the way to the foul line and, dead sprint. And he looks up and he had realized, I think he had overrun it a little bit. And so he kind of leans back, and his reaction to the play too, he kind of stood up with this like, holy crap, I can't believe I just caught that ball look. And, I was kind of going nuts. And the fact that the photographer was able to capture that moment and then Topps decided to print it. And then I got it in the Topps Chrome Sapphire Orange, which is the 25, was a pretty cool card. So it was one of those moments that I was there. And and I remember the reaction to it. So it's just it's like it's kind of it brings an emotional response out of me. Go ahead.
Is that some of the benefit maybe with the Topps now? Like that's kind of cool. Like you can kind of capture, like you could be at a game and buy a card like of like the game that you're at and the thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Topps now gives you that flexibility to kind of choose the moment, but they produce them a little bit more frequently now with Topps now on big moments at least. Chrome Sapphire is a limited print run. They don't do as many cards. It's a thicker card stock. It's a glossy finish with like, you can kind of tell too, like it's kind of got some like refracting, purposes where, it kind of has this sapphire, which is why that's what they call it, where it kind of refracts off. The other one is another Chrome Sapphire, from 2020, and these two of my favorite teammates, these two yahoos, Olsen and Chapman, and I asked them to sign it for me, and
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so two of my favorite teammates of all time on the same card in a special run, orange refractor. To 25. So I have those two.
What's the card? Like, what does it say on it?
It says it says high 10. So it's one of those like veteran combos cards from the update series, but it's high 10. And then it gives a little description on the back, of what the, let's see if I can turn the,
Yeah, graded cards in particular are tough on camera.
Tough on camera. Let's see if I can, for the last one, because the last one is one that has a little bit more value in vintage. It's a 1938 Gaudy Bobby Doerr, and when we were going over our production meeting, particularly like this one, and we'll talk about it here for a second. But Bobby, Red Sox, Hall of Famer, and I got a chance to meet Bobby later in his life. He lived out his days in a small town outside of Eugene, Oregon, and so I had a couple interactions with him, and so this Bobby Doerr. Still bad, but better.
No, that's
better.
Great. I love that card.
I mean, look at
that card, dude.
It's like a pencil sketch
so cool.
that has his face on it. So that's a fun one.
That's like Project 70, but from 1938.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Like that's sort of the vibe that it gives off.
Yeah,
is that a Topps?
It's a Gaudy. 1938 Gaudy. Yeah, so that was Gaudy was one like a big producer back in the day, and like Lou Gehrig rookie is a Gaudy. Is Jackie Robinson's rookie Gaudy? It might be.
It was a chewing gum company for anyone who didn't know. I didn't realize. I didn't know if it was chewing gum or tobacco. I mean, 90% of cards back then, I think, were one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jackie's is a Leaf. That's right, 1948 Leaf. But yeah, Ruth had a Gaudy, famously four cards in the Gaudy set of Ruth, and Lou Gehrig's rookie card is also a Gaudy.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I finally got into, there's a local shop in the next town over, and I finally got there last Friday. So this is a new entry into the DVR collection. Pretty unexpected as well. But, camera's over here.
Hey!
Look at that.
The free giveaway at the shop.
Which is so I spent the afternoon, like I just needed I needed an hour to myself, and I just wanted to leaf through a giant box of like $2 just assorted stuff, inserts, rookies.
You're about to say you got
whatever.
it for $2.
No, I didn't. This wasn't for $2. That's
free.
where I spent most of my time. So I'm sitting there, and I finally, after an hour, I come up with a stack of cards that honestly, like, they're just gonna bring me joy. I don't think I was really hunting for value. I was just hunting for some stuff that I liked that I didn't really have. And I go over to the counter, and I start flipping through the graded stuff and the stuff in the thicker cases, and I wasn't really planning on buying anything. I just wanted to see what they had. And I came across this Jed. So it's a Topps Archives signed on card from Jed. Great signature on that card, by the way. Like, that's a 10 out of 10 signature. It's numbered to 71. And what do you think they had it priced at this shop?
I'm guessing it was in the bicycle spokes of some kid driving down the road.
Come on, it was in a box with
okay.
It was in a box next to a bunch of Jacob Mizorowski rookies because those are like printing money up here right now.
$10.
$10. It was priced at 15. They did give it to me for 10. I didn't haggle. I bought so much other stuff that they were happy to get rid of that they just like added it up and like, how about 50 for the whole pile? So it ended up being basically $10 instead of 15 for the signed Jed card. But I just the level of surprise, because it wasn't a huge box that I flipped through. I was like, of all the cards to find a Jed auto, like a really nice one too.
That is a cool card.
Topps Archives.
Oh well, I'll Venmo you later so you can get your $10 back. But I do have a fun story. I bought a box of Upper Deck cards with my kids, and there was the chance of a Jed Lowry autograph card in that box, and there was one autograph, and there was probably 12 packs in the box. And the one autograph that my daughter opened was a Jed Lowry signed card. So that was kind of fun.
Those moments are unreal. Actually, speaking of Jacob Mizorowski, he pulled one of his own rookie autos last year, opening up some cards at a shop in Wisconsin.
Unfair.
When everything was coming up Miz, that happened. And I was like, there's probably some suspicious stuff that happens in the business nowadays, but I don't think they had enough time to coordinate that because it wasn't some like massive corporate break. It was just a local shop opening cards with the guy that got called up and was kind of on top of the world for a little while when he did it. But the other show and tell item for me, I thought this one was going to help me out more than it did. Keston Hiura on a Bowman's Best, like a rookie auto. It was only a couple bucks when I bought it, back before Keston Hiura showed up and then has slowly made his way out. I think he's the Dodgers org right now, so you never know. Still a possibility.
Still holding the flame for him?
I mean, not really, and everyone's disappointed I didn't bring any Victor Robles to the table, which I don't even buy Victor Robles cards. People just send them to me, so got a nice little stash of those going too. But let us know in the Discord what you collect, what kinds of stuff you'd like to see. We'll bring this segment out of the bag every once in a while because I think it's a fun time to collect, but it's a challenging time to collect. Everything's expensive right now, so you kind of have to pick your spots carefully if you're collecting on a budget.
Yep, get what you like. Get players, something that's meaningful to you, right? I think that's what ultimately what the ethos of collecting is get stuff that means something to you.
I have a slightly different approach, which is just I just buy boxes every once in a while.
Yeah, but it's entertaining, right? Like that. I
love ripping packs.
Absolutely, but it is.
That's what I was talking about with Mizorowski. Even.
Yeah,
we were talking about how great it is, how great of a feeling it is, rip through the packs. And
yes.
He's like, and then both of us were like, yeah, and then you're done, and there's just like a mess.
It's like a huge mess. But it feels like a little treasure hunt, right? Sitting on your chair.
Yeah, it does. Always the chance you could get the one best card that you could get in that box.
Totally.
All right, we'll see how well received this was. If we get even, let's say, 10 likes in Discord on a post in collectibles, we'll rip some packs next week.
God,
I don't know if they'll be good packs, but they'll be packs.
This might just turn into a break. We're not even going to talk about baseball anymore.
just ripping stuff open. Yeah. As soon as we stop talking about the players and we're just shelling packs like we're looking for golden tickets, then we've jumped the shark.
Gone too far.
We'll have to dial it down. But we're going to go on our way out the door. Reminder, you can join our Discord with the link in the show description. We got chatter in there all day, every day. We got day games, of course, on the afternoons. I love getting in there before I go to sleep, though, watching those West Coast games, which has been a lot of Dodgers already. I got to start mixing up my West Coast viewing or add a second tablet or something because I'm too locked in on what's happening in LA. I need to be all over the West Coast.
I think the Mariners and Yankees have one more, don't they, on the West Coast game? So that's a good matchup.
Yep, try to dial into that tonight. But that's going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. We're back with you on Thursday.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe or follow button so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed it, drop us a like, leave a rating, or sound off in the comments. We'll see you next time.